What's up and welcome back. In today's video, we are talking about 5 model railroad hacks the pros don't tell you. What's up? Welcome back. Thanks for tuning back into the Model Railroad Show. I'm George, and if you haven't already, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Give me a little thumbs up, all right? So, like I said in the beginning, 5 hacks that, the pros don't tell you, and these are going to seem like common sense, but it might not be stuff that you thought of. All right, so let's get right into it. Number 1 is start with a photo. Everything starts with a photo. You've seen me prior videos, if you've seen them, my Kitbash video, starting with a photo of the National Ceramic Company and getting things, modeling after that. You've seen my weathering video, the tutorial that I did, starting with a photo of a boxcar. Even though I didn't stick to it exactly, it gives you that inspiration. It shows you where dirt should and shouldn't be. You see Tony Coaster do it. You've seen David Pop do it. Eric White, if you're a trains.com member, is modeling a glass factory. And he is using basically like Google Earth images to get ideas of where things go in the glass factory and model after that. So everybody thinks, oh, you gotta be so creative to be a model railroader. I mean, yeah, there's creativity involved into it, but if you just take a photo and you start modeling what you see in these photos, it's going to go a long way and it's going to help what you're modeling look real. All right, that's the beginning of it. Number 2, keeping with the kits. All right, chop your kits. Kitbash. I just did a Kitbash video. A lot of these pros, they rarely build, if they're using a kit, they're rarely building it as is. All right, they're combining different wall sections and roofs, getting windows from other kits, and using that to create a real life structure, or sometimes using that to create architecture that is specific to an area. I mean, you look at different parts of the United States, whether it's Philadelphia or Chicago, or you're modeling the Southwest. All of those parts of the United States have different styles of architecture, whether it's the industrial Trenton of the 50s and these brick buildings that they had with these flat roofs. Everything can be a kitbash, and it makes your kits look like they didn't come out of the box. All right, number 3, it's fill in those scenery gaps in between your scenes, right? So each scene you have is going to tell a story, and in between those scenes, you might have these gaps of scenery. Don't be afraid to fill them in with like a dense forest, dense wooded area, some brush. Maybe it's a field or a farm. All of these things lined up against the rails at different parts of the country. So it gives the person the train time to move from point A to point B. It lets them go from one scene to another, and it'll keep people focused on the areas that you want them focused on, whether it's like an industrial area or an industrial siding or what have you. So giving that, forest and that in-between area really can help separate your scenes. The other thing it's great for is if you're in a corner, say you've modeled a corner and you have an area that you really can't reach to model real well, put some trees back there, it fills it in, it'll look really good. All right, and if you hadn't noticed, go to Google Earth and look down anywhere. There's trees everywhere. I don't care if it's a heavy industrial area, there's trees everywhere. And if you aren't in a heavy industrial area, don't be afraid to model an empty lot. There's lots of empty lots in some of these industrial areas that are in between. Lots of empty lots. Don't be afraid to model an empty lot. Put some junk in there. There's the possibilities there are endless, but don't feel like you got to have a building on every square inch, of your layout, and you need to go from like one to the other to the other. There's always some space to fill in with a good amount of scenery. Speaking of industries and scenery and what have you, even if when you're starting your layout, even if you don't have an interest, maybe you just want to watch trains run in a circle, plan for a little bit of operation. Set that siding up, plan for an operation. This is why so many beginner track plans you see people, especially the pros, will tell you to have an interchange track that connects to the outside world where trains can come and go from the layout. Plan for, even if it's a little bit of operation, maybe it's like one siding and exchanging some cars, or maybe it's 2 sidings or something like that. Even something very simple. Plan for that little bit of operation so that when you get, maybe tired of watching those trains run in a circle and then run in a circle the opposite direction, you can have some switching with a purpose. And if you're in this hobby long enough, especially if you're an HO and N scale, you're going to get into operation eventually. It's much easier if you plan for it now than you have to adapt your layout for it later. All right. So when you design your layout, build that in, even if you're not interested in it. Finally, 5, don't glue everything down. I feel like people do this. They glue everything. There are, I would say none of my structures are actually glued to the layout. You know, these structures, you're taking them off, you're detailing them, maybe you're redoing them, maybe you have a scene where you can plug different structures in and out to, you know, keep the excitement going or keep your modeling going. Don't feel the need to glue every structure down to the layout. Of course, there's some small ones that you're going to glue and hook up down to the layout, but especially some of these bigger buildings, you know, maybe you want to add lights later, maybe you want to add an interior later. So don't go gluing all of these structures down to the layout. Maybe you're going to start a new layout, expand your layout, or build a bigger layout, and then you can take some of these structures and you can put them on that next layout. I have structures on this layout that are from my very first N scale layout. Some of the very first N scale buildings I put together before I had a layout are currently on my current layout. Don't glue them all down. If you have to glue them down, make sure you're using some kind of a water soluble glue to do so. So there's a chance you can get everything off without having to scrape a bunch of scenery off it. That's, to me, that's a big tip. Don't glue down everything. So that's it. That's the 5 things. Let me know if you like this video. Again, hit that subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. Ring the bell so you know when I upload new stuff. And, you know, down below, I will leave you a book, a Tony Coaster book in Amazon that is basically designing for operations. I think it's a good book. It's one that I have. And your local hobby store will have plenty of books. And I'm George. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.